Let me get started with the Democratic National Convention that wrapped up last night. Like I told you, in Chicago, Illinois. The convention was an event that was star-studded from start to finish with luminaries from all walks of life. The Democratic Party showcased their best and brightest on the night where Kamala Harris officially accepted the Democratic nomination for the President of the United States of America. She's the first woman of color to ever accept a major party nomination in this country. Okay? Even though, woman of color, of course. I was getting ready to say woman, but Hillary Rodham Clinton did do it in 2016, but I digress. She's not a woman of color. That would be Kamala. Nevertheless, the world was watching as we finally got a chance to hear the vice president's plan for America. And that's where I want to start. First things first. I thought she started off slow. I was a bit worried at first. Okay? I really, really was. And I'm looking for something that I said to one of my boys last night because we were watching it and talking to one another while she was on stage. And, there were questions. Initially, for the first 5 to 10 minutes or so, I wanted her to come out swinging. I wanted her to come out inspiring us. I wanted her to come out exuding more confidence in her ability to be a strong, capable president. And I felt initially she had slow-rolled it a little bit to the point where she was pushing out her resume. And I thought that was caving to the cynics out there who were questioning her legitimacy. And she didn't need to do that. You're the vice president of the United States. Come out swinging. And then she got it going. And from that point forward, when she called the former president of the United States unserious, that's when I said, uh-oh, here we go. Look at this sound right here, unserious. Look at this.
Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election.
See, that's where I'm going right there. I love the fact that she brought that up, because that's why he's not getting my vote. See, no matter what, I believe in America, things are cyclical. What goes around comes around. And it might be your turn this time, it might be your turn next time. But the reality of the situation is, this is the United States of America. We've had Nixon, we've had Ford, we had Carter. We had Reagan for a couple of terms and George H.W. Bush. Then we had Clinton for a couple of terms. After that, we had George W. Bush for a couple of terms. Even though one could easily argue it should have been Al Gore if it wasn't for the hanging chads in the state of Florida. But I digress. Okay? He won in 2000, came back in 2004, beat John Kerry. After that, what did we have? We had Obama, who beat Hillary, and all the other Democrats that tried to get in their way. And not only did he beat John McCain in the general election, and then after that he beat Mitt Romney, even though Mitt Romney slaughtered Barack Obama in the first debate on the economy. Last two debates, Barack Obama showed up and handled his business. But that first debate against Mitt Romney, damn it, I almost called for a mercy rule. I almost waved a towel. It was that bad. But we had Barack Obama there. And then after that, it was supposed to be Hillary, but it ended up being Trump. And then after Trump, it was Biden. And now here we are. It's not a dead end. At least it hasn't been in the past. But when you call somebody unserious, and he's proven himself to be unserious in terms of his verbiage and his willingness and ability to articulate policy and some of the decisions that go behind it, And we're not worried about a personal agenda contaminating the proceedings because of relationships with dictators across the globe or whatever the case may be. And you talk about a man being unserious, but the consequences of him returning to office is serious. I thought that was a point that needed to be made. I thought it should have been made sooner rather than her giving off her bio and her resume. But damn it, I'll take it, because for the last 29 minutes or so to 30 minutes of that speech, Kamala Harris was fantastic. She showed up. What I was imploring on Wednesday's show that was grossly misrepresented in the conservative stratosphere was that she needed to show up and show people what we believe she's capable of. I'm not going to look at this black woman and you're going to tell me that a former prosecutor, who is a former state attorney general, who is a former senator, who is the present vice president of the United States, you're going to come to me with her lack of qualifications while applauding Trump's qualifications going into office? Are you smoking crack? That ain't happening. If I didn't question him, I damn sure ain't questioning her. At some point in time, no matter what your mind is, no matter what your psyche is, no matter what you do cerebrally and what have you, and people on the conservative side can lean to how he governed, and I can respect that in their minds, I also got to pay attention to your ability to articulate your positions and the discipline that you exercise and put forth so you ain't scaring the living hell out of the American citizens. I remember when Trump talked about former cabinet member John Bolton. And he said to him, I liked having him in the room with me because, you know, you had folks from other nations, the minute they saw him, they were petrified. We were going to bomb them because all he wanted to do was bomb everybody. And they were scared we were going to do it. So sometimes I'd keep him in the room with me and just tell him to be quiet. And I would sit there and do the talking because him just sitting next to me would scare the living hell out of them. That's fine. The problem is the former president of the United States tends to do that with the American people. And there's too much stuff that's going on in this world for you not to be sensitive to the thoughts you put in the heads of the American citizen, of the constituent or constituency while stuff is going on. She didn't stop there, though, because she zeroed in on Trump, which was what she needed to do. That is the opposition. And I wish that Trump had zeroed in on her the way that she zeroed in on him so we can have a debate about the issues instead of looking at him saying to people, you didn't even say hello, how are you, or questioning her ethnicity or her intellect. That ain't working. You can't have a United States Constitution that rules that we are 3/5 of a human being, but then turn around and say that a speck of blackness in her doesn't qualify her to be black. Is she black or is she Indian? You don't have it both ways. Which one is it? You about the Constitution, right? Well, what the hell did the Constitution say? We never subscribed to that as black people. I'll be damned if we did. But there were white people in America who did. Now suddenly you want to use that against them. It ain't going to work. But in the end, she locked in on Trump. From about the 9 or the 10-minute mark, she locked in. Kamala Harris showed up. And by the way, major props to Kerry Washington for emceeing the night with her. And as she had those two beautiful nieces of Kamala Harris come up on that stage, I think they were her nieces. And she said, for those that don't know how to pronounce her name, how do you pronounce her name? And one of the nieces says, Kama, as in comma. And then the other child said, La, Kamala. It was brilliant. Brilliant, okay? It was a beautiful thing. Props as an aside to the one and only D.L. Hughley going up on stage, being a man of his word, saying he judged her prematurely. He met up with her one day. She asked him to do his research. He went and did that, and he wanted to apologize on the national stage in front of the world to see acknowledging that he needed to correct the errors of his way. That's what men do. Major props to D.L. Hughley for doing that. I know he's been critical of me. I don't give a damn. I still love the brother. And I still think he's great at a lot of things. And I wish him nothing but the best. We always going to be good. But back to the speech itself. Vice President didn't stop there. She got into dictators rooting for Trump. Listen to this.
I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend our forces and our interests against Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump. Because, you know, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself. And as president, I will never waver in defense of America's security and ideals, because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs.
Here you go. Ladies and gentlemen, that's leadership. Say what you want. And it's just a speech. It's not policy. It's not that. I get that part. But you're going to give a speech. Give it right. And make sure everybody knows where you stand. Make sure everybody knows what you stand for. She said, this is what it is. She said, dictators are rooting for Trump. And basically said, because he wants to be like them. I mean, damn. So what that's going to do is make you dial it back a little bit. And say, okay, let me think about some of the things that he's done. Let me think about some of the things he wants to do. Let me think about Project 2025. Let me think about dismantling the federal government. Let me think about making it harder with women and their reproductive rights. Let me think about law enforcement and what kind of effect and impact he wants to have on that. Let me think about the possibility of him being able to operate with impunity in light of the Supreme Court justice's rulings just weeks ago that essentially said, if you're in office, there's a lot of crimes that you can't be associated with. I mean, you get to operate with some degree of impunity sitting in that office, making some of those decisions. I mean, these are the kind of things that she was talking about, which brings you to the point of elevating the level of importance in your mind as to whether or not you want somebody about country. Do you want somebody about country? Or do you want somebody just about their party and themselves? Here's what she had to say about that.
Our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward. Not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. And let me say, I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me to put country above party and self.
Go ahead, girl. Go ahead. That's what I'm talking about right there. You see, that's why I'm a registered independent. I don't like either damn party. I think they all full of it. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about the party, the two-party, the binary system that engulfs us and our lives. I don't trust them. You know what would make me trust them? If I had a leader up top that was speaking about what's in the best interest of this nation, and I had parties on both sides who didn't march lockstep along party lines. if I saw Republicans vote with Democrats, if I saw Democrats voting with Republicans, if I saw bipartisanship bipartisanship working effectively, instead of marching a lockstep among party lines, ruling our political system, if I saw it, I could trust it more. But I can't. You realize in today's generation, you don't even have, once you campaign, the work is in the campaign. Once you're in office, if you're a senator or a congressional figure that exists today, you don't have to do any work once you're elected. All you have to do is vote along party lines. You don't even have to read bills. You don't have to do anything. Because all it's about in today's generation is making sure you're showing loyalty to the party. Showing loyalty to the party. Bump loyalty to the party. Loyalty is supposed to be to America. To the American citizens, white, black, Latino, Asian American, Native American, Jews, Catholics, Christians, it don't matter. You America. When Osama bin Laden and terrorists attacked this nation, you thought they distinguished when they ran those planes into the World Trade Center in 2001? Do you think for 1 second, 9/11, during 9/11, they crashed the planes in the building and they said there's only Jewish folks in there. There's only black folks in there. There's only white folks in there. No, they didn't. They didn't give a damn. They lumped us all together. And all of you got to go. As many of y'all as we could take out. That's what they did. We didn't compartmentalize as Americans. We said it's us against them. That's what we heard from Kamala Harris last night. I'm proud of that woman today. I'm proud of her. I was really pleased with the vice president and her speech last night. I was very, very pleased. And obviously, if you are an American citizen and you've got concerns about what's transpiring, she gave the kind of speech that you wanted to hear. I knew that she wasn't going to go the way that Donald Trump did at the Republican National Convention, basically ruining 3.5 nights of exceptional work on a part of the Republican National Convention. He ruined it. Everybody was fine but Donald Trump that night. Everybody was fine but him. And his speech was so awful that I just thought that he basically messed up his prospects. Kamala Harris did not do that last night. And here was one of the reasons why, when she was talking about how America, we are not going back. Listen to this.
But America, we are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back to when Donald Trump tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. We are not going back to when he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We are not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. We are not going to let him end programs like Head Start that provide preschool and child care for our children. America, we are not going back.
Assuming there's complete truth and validity and veracity to her statements, that would be enough. But she wasn't finished. She wasn't finished. That would be enough to assume folks are out of their minds. She gave you even more reasons why to think some of these folks are out of their minds. Listen to this.
This is what's happening in our country because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Here's where it gets interesting. When she made that statement, all I could think about was women are going to determine this election. It's not going to be the fellas. No matter your ethnicity, no matter what your background is pertaining to affluence, rich, poor, whatever the case may be, black, white, whatever. Men are not going to determine this election. It's going to be women. Because reproductive rights, particularly the way Kamala Harris outlined it, it's going to come down to that. White women as well as black women. Now, the belief is most black women ain't going to vote for Donald Trump because most black people ain't going to vote for Donald Trump. But white women are a very, very powerful constituent. Not just because of themselves in terms of the numbers game, but because of the potential influence they could potentially have on their husbands. It's going to be real interesting to see. And I'm glad she said what she said, because highlighting that reality in terms of women's rights. One would surmise there's no way in hell he's going to win the female vote. But what if enough vote for him? Where's that going to leave us? It's going to be interesting to see what side of the aisle the ladies in this country are going to fall under. Either way you slice it, Kamala Harris did her job last night. And you know how important I believe closing is. As Alec Baldwin said in the movie Glenn Ross, always be closing. Always be closing. You got to close the deal. And that's what she did, talking about her days from the courthouse, aiming for the White House. Listen to this.
I will be a president who unites us around our highest aspirations, a president who leads and listens, who is realistic, practical, and has common sense, and always fights for the American people. From the courthouse to the White House, that has been my life's work.
Now she's got to be ready for them to attack her life's work. But it all started with you coming out swinging. That's what I was calling for. I wanted her to come out swinging. I wanted her to make sure that she made a profound speech and sent a profound message. I don't give a damn that Beyonce didn't perform at the DNC last night like TMZ initially reported, but ultimately made a correction. They said they got it wrong. Ain't nobody castigating them in any way. I'm just stating the facts. But I don't care about none of that. I cared about what she had to say. She started off slow with her bio on her resume. But from that point forward, at about the 10 or 11 minute mark, the Vice President of the United States, the Democratic nominee for the President of the United States, Kamala Harris, showed up, and she showed out. Now, let the games begin. May the best one win. Got to show up for the fight. She showed up. That is what I have been waiting.